The FBI had more than 24 informants in Washington, D.C. during the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. According to an Inspector General report released on Thursday, the report says 4 of the Bureau's informants entered the Capitol and 13 others breached restricted grounds but did not enter the building. None of the individuals have been prosecuted. The investigation also found no evidence that FBI employees participated in the protests or encouraged illegal acts. The informants were primarily tasked with monitoring activities of groups like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, considered to be potential domestic terrorism threats. The FBI says it did not direct any informants to enter restricted areas. The report did not address why the 4 informants who entered the Capitol have not been charged. While the FBI acknowledged the findings of the report, the Bureau disagreed with some of the conclusions about informant activities. To bring back in, Executive Director of America First Works, Ashley Hayek. Ashley, so the Inspector General's report reveals 26 FBI sources were on the grounds on January 6, something FBI Director Chris Wray has denied on multiple occasions. At least he wouldn't answer the question. Do you think this is demonstrating that U.S. intelligence played a role in these January 6 protests?
Well, I think it definitely proves why the American people continue to not trust the federal government, the intelligence agencies, or the FBI because of the lies that keep being exposed. And I think it's also interesting that the federal government, the FBI, can figure out who the grandma was who took a selfie in the Capitol but they can't quite figure out, where those drones are coming from or other, major national security issues that are extremely more pressing to the American people than that grandparent who got sentenced to time in prison. So it just further underscores the complete distrust of the American people in the government.
Former U.S. Senate candidate from Arizona, Kari Lake, has a new position on President-elect Trump's team. On Truth Social Tuesday, Trump announced that the Republican will serve as the director of Voice of America. Trump indicated Lake will work under his soon-to-be-picked head of the U.S. Agency for Global Media to ensure that the American values of freedom and liberty are broadcast around the world fairly and accurately, unlike the lies spread by the fake news media, is what the president said. Lake is a former news anchor in Arizona and ran for governor and the Senate in her state, but lost both races. During her campaigning, she took the liberal media head on.
I'll do an interview. Okay. As long as it airs on CNN+. Does that still exist? I didn't think so, because the people don't like what you guys are peddling, which is propaganda. Thank you. Which one of you is from the New York Times? You know there's only 2 genders, right? Have you ever talked to a mother who's lost a son or daughter to fentanyl poisoning? You wouldn't be acting cocky like this, okay? Oh, I got your mic. I'm going to go flush it down the toilet right now.
As head of Voice of America, Lake will lead a taxpayer-funded international media outlet with a $267 million budget. Mike?
On Flashpoint Thursday night, Gene Bailey and his guests talked about the ongoing border crisis and how illegal immigrants are still trying to enter the United States before Donald Trump takes office.
How important is this to President Trump on day one with this border wall and the whole deportation?
It's crucial. What really upsets me, too, is to see the Democrats so drastically shift over the last few months once they realized that they could no longer ignore the border crisis because it was politically disadvantageous to them. They only cared about solving the border issue once they realized they were losing voters over it. Why is that? It is because at the cost of human lives, at the cost of people getting raped, at the cost of people coming over with drugs on their backs, they are trying to create an entirely new voting bloc that would secure their position in the American electorate for years and decades to come. That's all they wanted. They didn't care what the cost was. And then they started to recognize that the immediate time of the moment was that the American people were getting sick and tired of border crime. They were getting sick and tired of the migrant crisis. They were sick and tired of seeing people being trafficked over our border and the cost on human lives because the cartels were profiting. And so then they started to change their narrative. It went from there is no border crisis to me seeing, especially as a communicator who makes television ads for politicians, ad after ad of Democrats saying that I worked across the aisle with Republicans to solve the border crisis. I support Donald Trump's border wall over and over and over again. And so when this party comes back to the table and says that they were part of the solution, Remember what brought them to this point. It was not that they cared about the lives that were at risk on the border. It was because it was politically disadvantageous to them to deny this any longer.
Be sure to watch this and all the episodes of Flashpoint on flashpoint.com or govictory.com/flashpoint. Greg?
Thank you, Tim. As we leave today, a lot of stuff in the news today. We are just a few days away from Christmas. There's no reason for you to have stress or anxiety or anything. But if you do, call the phone number on the screen right now, 877-281-6297, 877-281-6297. A licensed, trained minister that knows how to pray will pray with you. I encourage you to make use of that. Tell other people about it. Let them know about a place where they can receive prayer individually. Our thanks to Ashley Hayek and especially you. Thanks for joining us today. We're always honored that you trust us to learn what's happening in the world.